welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo.
And I'm Miss Joan Marie Musi.
And our guest is John Murdock. Hi, John. Welcome.
Jumping the gun already.
Yeah, well, I've been a guest on your show a couple times now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right. It's the first time you've been on our show.
I know. I feel honored.
Well, welcome.
Well, thank you for coming.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure. Going above 14th Street is always an adventure for me.
Right, there you go. An opportunity to come up all the way up to 59th Street.
Yeah, see how the other folk live.
Right. So, John, you're here for a couple of reasons. Number one is we spent a lot of time together in Charlotte at the convention.
Yes, we did.
And before that, you spent time in Tampa, Florida, at the Republican National Convention. And also,
so you went to both.
Oh, yeah, he was at both.
I was all over. 85 hours of bus travel.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yes. I have deep and unrelenting feelings of about the buses and Greyhound in general. Yeah. It's a personal grudge that I will remember for a long time.
Greyhound, right? Well, they're in competition. There's a lot of other bus companies out there now.
Right? Yeah, well, I got a taste of that, too. The buses running out of Chinatown.
Right.
Give Greyhound's overt indifference a run for its money.
Okay.
In ways, what they don't care about is beyond even what Greyhound doesn't care about. Okay. So it was exciting.
Right.
But also fully worth it. I'm very glad I was there. From a
political point of view, besides the adventures of the road and traveling that much far in the whole East Coast of the United States. And you have coming up on October 16th, right?
We are we are rallying together people to head to the debates for the presidential debates at Hofstra, where we will watch, these presidential candidates who agree on so much, pretend to not like each other, pretend to play their game when they have the same sponsors. So I'm really actually trying to push. I'd really like to see the cannabis movement and the people who are fighting against the drug war really to step up at this particular moment and take that media event and the opportunity it presents and make something of it, get themselves into the mix.
Sure.
Because Occupy is for it if you talk to people individually, but they are not for it collectively. And I think it is, besides a vital issue, it's a winning issue. The kids are coming our way.
The cannabis issue, yeah.
Kids are coming our way,
right.
And I feel
but do either of the presidential candidates have any stand even on it besides hard issues on the drug war?
We haven't made it so that they have to. They can talk and they do their little special, people interest stories. Like, oh yeah, I smoked or I did this or that. But in fact, their laws, Barack Obama has been cracking down on the federal dispensaries, which gives him a little cred with people who probably aren't ever going to vote for him anyway. But, he reaches out to them anyway at the expense of the people on the left. This policy's time is certainly run out. We know enough about marijuana at this point that we know it's the war on it that is the destructive thing.
Well, didn't he say when he was running that he wasn't going to attack the dispensaries in California?
Yeah, he did. And he played his whole, I did these drugs, I'm just like you. But when it came down to it, it was the prison industrial complex, the pharmaceuticals that he reached out to, not the people who worked for him. And the fact is that in every, all these campaigns, 94% of them are won by the people who raise the most money. So he chased the money, and he didn't chase what was for the common good.
So would you say that that President Obama has not kept his promises, or all his promises?
No, he has.
Or most of them.
I would say he has deserted the left. There is still a tangible difference between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in terms of female reproductive rights and gay civil rights. But that difference isn't as broad. It's not something that he's really going to fight for. And if you get some sort of crazed reactionary Congress within these next 4 years, he will cave. It's not his issue. Those are not things. Those are just things that is a given on the left. And if you want this, you have to vote for us. He hasn't fought for it.
When you go to Hofstra University with a group of, I guess, Occupy people and
Occupy, cannabis, it's a coalition. What I learned in the conventions is you work with the people you agree with. Take each issue separately. Instead of taking it as a whole, you have to have the same ideological bent as me. If somebody, is going to go and whack the Republicans nice and proper on something that they're clearly doing wrong, go along and whack them. Whack them with your words, with your with your marches, with your street art, whatever you see fit. You know, when those cameras are there, go make the argument against the policy. You know, and there's things like Code Pink. I thought they were very effective. Very effective. Yeah, and in Tampa and in New York. You know, I would like, you know, apparently they're going to have a presence there as well.
Hofstra.
You know, Veterans for Peace. Love what they did in both Tampa, and I love the way they were also. They were one.
We played some of those videos a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, they were great.
Well, we also met the Iraq Veterans Against the War after they were attacked at a presidential debate 4 years ago.
I was going to bring that up next.
So
we already told them about it a couple of
something
times.
I've been keeping in mind.
I mean, it was really a fascinating
Let's just remind
story.
the viewers who might have been listening 4 years ago, if you've been real fans of our show and were there 4 years ago, we had Mathis Shiro of Iraq Veterans Against the War, who was on this air telling about being assaulted and beaten, and some of the other anti-war protesters involved being beaten.
Including one of your friends from the school where you both taught.
A kindergarten teacher, pre-kindergarten
Nadine.
teacher, Nadine. And also there was
hit in the head, right?
Right, she was hit in the head and knocked on the ground.
And somebody else,
on horseback,
stomped
being
him.
stomped. And then, yes, there was the Marine Iraq veteran who had his orbit broken. And
these veterans were all in uniform.
Yes. Oh, yes. They were in uniform.
New York is a different animal.
Right.
I mean, I think we have to accept that.
This is Hempstead, Long Island, where Hofstra University is, and I don't know if it was the campus cops or the county police or whoever, but that's.
Well, they had gone trying to get an issue onto the agenda at the debate. Like they felt that no one was asking about Iraq, and so they were trying to go to the debate, present a question for both candidates, and asked them to put that into the debate, but they didn't even get close before the police attacked them on horseback.
Which is unsurprising. When I called to find out where the zone of protest that they set apart, if there was a zone of protest, over the weekend when I called, I met ridiculous hostility. You know, where the guy didn't want to, you know, he was deferring it to his boss, which, okay, I mean, I guess I get that. But my question, you know, and I called...
You're trying to get the legal permission.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to work with you at this moment.
Sure.
You know, for now, we are trying to work with you. And what I got was, well, you just have to talk to him. And I'm like, well, you guys know if there's a spot designated or not. Why don't you just tell me so we don't have to do this? And he goes, well, if it's out there, it's out there. And I'm like, well, all right, buddy. I see that you are committed to not giving me an answer that's, you know, basic, and you're just committed to not doing your job.
Do you have a phone number or a website or some sort of contact information for folks
for
who might
people who want to participate?
Well, actually, it's going to be at Hagedorn, the Hagedorn dorm parking lot. Hagedorn.
Hagedorn dorm.
Yep, parking lot.
Yeah.
And it's going to be open at 10 a.m. is what they've said. 10 a.m. They said it might be 11.
Now, how does somebody get out there from New York?
Well, we're working on that.
Okay.
We're going to have to probably find vans, buses. It's going to have to probably be a Long Island type activist heavy thing.
Right. Like you can go to Ronkonkoma and take a bus like half an hour back. Like it goes past.
So it's a little bit difficult then to get there.
Which makes me think that they know what they're doing when they choose debate sites in the New York area.
My car is fairly direct.
Now, do you think there's any viable candidate outside of the two major candidates that people should get behind, or do you think it's hopeless to have a third party in the United States? Or
it's not hopeless because there's been other parties. You know, I don't think any candidate is going to shake America out of its addiction to the lesser of two evils. You know, I don't think Jill Stein is going to get it. I really doubt Gary Johnson is going to make any real headway. But I can't say enough to people. Please vote for him anyway. Vote for him anyway to show that you know, at least there's the idea. I mean, if Ross Perot, who was stark raving mad, frothing at the mouth, a man who abused his wealth and power, could get 19%, sure, anything's possible. You know, we just keep on looking to billionaires. You know, like we have Mayor Bloomberg.
Right.
Now, he's a third-party candidate, you know, but he's a Republican. And he's a Democrat. You know, like there's one party right now.
Right.
Now, John Murdock, welcome again to Let Them Talk. There might be the whole idea that Obama and Mitt Romney might in some way be similar or alike or share many values together. It might be absolutely enraging, if not just sacrilegious to some people out there right now who are listening. Some people think the Democratic Party and the whole idea of the lesser evil really is the way to go. It's the only way to protect our rights from being taken away.
Our rights, then quit on our rights.
Now, so I want to invite people to call us who might disagree with things they're hearing here, and our number is 212-757-1538.
Or they don't have to disagree if they just have something to add
yes.
to the conversation.
Anything to add to the conversation, yes.
And to them I would say, H.R. 347, the two parties agreed on that. And that's the law that makes it illegal, a felony, to protest if you sneak into any event with the Secret Service. It doesn't matter what you do is violent or disruptive or not.
So if you yell at the candidate in the speech, which happened,
one
of the Iraq veterans,
if it's effective and embarrassing, that's a federal crime.
Okay.
You know, any protest essentially that has Secret Service events is now a protest.
Right.
Now, have they
people in Congress
prosecuted?
voted against that.
Have they prosecuted anyone under that
there
law
are people,
yet?
It's actually being, I believe it's being tested, but I don't think anyone has been prosecuted.
They
just hold it there.
In
for
Canada,
an protest.
they're already doing this. In Quebec, I believe, in Toronto, and in Ontario, they're already doing this in Canada, where they're saying that protests are basically illegal, and that you can't go into the streets and you can't protest. And when any protest gathers, it's stopped by the police. There's no protesting without any sort of permit. You can't have a.
Or do they issue
rally.
permits?
No, they'll issue permits, but people don't want to do
to the
permanent.
right sort.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Many people don't want to do permanent because once you do a permanent, then you're in the, they're in the zone. You're in the, you can't really effectively protest them.
Fun fact that they did call the Hofstra, because I got a hold of the person, the answer guy today, and of course they are calling their protest zone the First Amendment zone.
Okay.
They can't help themselves.
Right.
They don't see bad PR and disturbing Orwell talk when it is put on a plate. They just love calling it a First Amendment zone. I would love to see one of them have to explain to Thomas Paine what is a First Amendment zone.
I'm going to up the level right now because I'm going to play a clip of an interview with a homeless man by the name of Nick that we did, you and I and Patrick, a filmmaker friend of ours. We did this interview at a homeless shelter in Charlotte during the convention, and Nick tells about how the coming of the Democrats made his life, which was very hard enough, that much harder. All right? And all homeless people in that area.
Just tell me your name.
Nick.
Are you homeless?
Yes, I'm homeless.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, your experience.
I'm from Dayton, Tennessee, and I moved here to Charlotte, and I fell in love with Charlotte when I got here, and I haven't been able to find a place to live, even though I am on disability. And I was staying at a motel, and the first few nights it was $30 a night, and then it went on up to $240, and I'm like, well, I can't pay this. And they're like, well, you got to go because the DNC's coming to town, and we're not going to have you here if you can't pay our rates. That's pretty much it, barrel right there.
What was the name of the motel, do you know?
Restway Inn.
You were sort of kicked out of your home by the DNC.
Yeah.
What does it make you feel about President Obama and the DNC?
I don't think that he's proud. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's more the city's fault. When it comes to the homeless, like the security here, we was downtown the other day, and I had my bag with me, and I was coming back down this way, and I got stopped 5 different times by 5 different officers. They went through my bag each time, and they all asked me where I was going, which was over here to Woody's, and they're like, well, you need to get on down through there, because, before somebody thinks that you have something in there and you can get hurt. See, I've been in jail since I've been here, and I was hurt by the Charlotte Police Department. And I've contacted an attorney about that.
What was your experience with the police here?
A man and I had an altercation. This is his story. I was headed back home. He got assaulted, and he told the police that I done it. Well, the night they arrested me, they injured my neck and my shoulder and my back. And the whole time I was incarcerated, I told them that I was hurt. And they asked me how I got hurt, and I told them, and they just kind of said, no, you didn't. You fought back and all this or whatever. I didn't resist the officers. I was willing. I was compliant with them. They slammed me into the trunk of the car. It hurt my neck, and it hurt my shoulder, and it continuously hurts now. And and it's mostly all because of the DNC. And I'm a Democrat, and I understand that the president, it's not his fault. It's just the people that are under him. It's mostly their fault. They're assholes, or idiots, or whatever.
Tell me about the conditions in this motel you were staying in. What was that like?
Nasty.
Yeah, give me some details.
Mold, roaches, stained carpet. Bathrooms were hideous. I didn't want to shower in them because they were just ungodly nasty. It was like, oh God, how can people stand this? And I complained about it, and they gave me a different room, and it was shortly in a better condition.
I'm gonna because just because the helicopters are away, so I'm gonna sound a little repetitive, maybe just because the sound is a little better now. So you're looking for a home. You come to Charlotte. You're staying in a motel. And what was the price of that motel? How much did they charge you?
The first it was $35, and they kept jacking it up. And I was using my debit card to pay. And I was like, wow, man, what's going on with the price here? And they're like, well, the DNC's coming to town. You either have to pay our rates or you have to get out. I was like, man, that's crazy. I have nowhere to live. We don't care. The delegates are coming and you have to go.
And yet the conditions of the hotel room weren't the greatest. You wouldn't expect delegates to want to stay in that hotel.
I wouldn't expect anybody to want to stay there.
Yeah, again, the details, how it was pretty gross, right? It was
mold, roaches, the ceiling had stains in it from, I don't know what kind of stains, I really don't want to know what kind of stains. The carpet was nasty, and I'm sure there was bed bugs because, I had bite marks on me, so I'm sure it was just...
So what was your reaction, John, when we met Nick?
It was sad. It was incredibly sad that he had to, you have to watch that, people clinging to a system that is failing them. I mean, who's been more failed by the system than him? And he's still clinging to the idea that Barack Obama, who knows what happens when he comes to a town. You get cleared out. You clear out the homeless. You clear out the riffraff, so to speak. You bury them. You put them in jail. Very often they're just arrested, and that's standard operating procedure, is to arrest the homeless when a big event is coming to town, and that's fascism. That's as bad as it gets. So
was it as bad as the 47% comment that Mitt Romney made?
Well, I mean, Romney does the same thing, without a doubt. Probably worse, It's not like there's any real difference on them. If the Republicans had come to Charlotte, he would be put in jail or pushed out of the way. If the Democrats come to Charlotte, he's put in jail or pushed out of the way. Either one of them, it's millionaires coming to town. As Joni and I were saying, though, I love the idea that some of these delegates had to pay $240 for what? For the hotel.
For a place a homeless person thought was a
Abandon all hope,
$35.
ye who enter a hotel.
The Bates Motel.
Yeah, $240. In your mind, if you're paying $240 a night, you're thinking jacuzzi.
Gorgeous, right?
You're living
fabulous
big.
View.
Not in
nice
Charlotte.
Room service.
Not when you order a bit late.
I wonder what media person right at the real bottom of the pecking order, right?
Got that hotel.
Got that hotel, right?
Because they didn't plan till the
late
end,
ones.
right?
Yeah,
that's exactly it. The last minuters.
Right.
But if that's what you're getting for $240, what are you getting for $500? What do you like? What does it take to have something livable? And even that, again, who is coming to your convention? Who can afford to come to your convention?
Right.
If it's $240 for the end of the world, if you want something like somewhat reasonable, in terms of listenable, what do you have to have?
I have to say, some of the if you got there late at night, some of the people, if their bosses were not really strict on it, they would give you a break. If you were somebody who was just passing through or they didn't think was actually part of the convention, they'll give it to you for half that.
Yeah.
But some of them were under orders. They told us only top dollar, even if the place is empty.
And that is yet another filter that works for both.
It's a capitalist
parties.
system, isn't that? I mean, it's during certain seasons, right? You go out west. If you go to the national parks, the prices of the motels go up in the summer when people want to go there.
If you have an apartment on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade route, over
right.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, people pay big money for
Yes,
it. Yeah.
then that people rent those for a huge amount of money.
Right, so that's the capitalist system. The problem is that, okay, great when rich people are vying for a better view for their kids of the Macy's Day Parade, but it's another thing when 400 homeless people are dumped into the streets. Because there's 1,000, they said there was about 1,000 homeless people and it's probably more, in Charlotte, and the shelter holds 600. So that means it's 400 who pay $35 a night to live in these motels.
Or live on the street.
Or just get arrested whenever whenever they wanted to look nice.
And our friend John another friend of mine, John Penley was arrested
in Charlotte,
yes.
right?
Without a doubt.
Yes.
And did he have a bad time in jail?
They put him in solitary.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they sent him. Well, in the jail, they put him in the jail that was supposed to be for the demonstrators. So, except for a handful of homeless people and himself, since they didn't arrest too many demonstrators, there was.
It was a huge empty place.
Yeah, it was like a concentration camp for 1,500 people.
Oh no!
It was like empty.
They did put him in solitary, though. He said for a bit, for like 9 hours.
Oh,
right, in the course of all that, right? They probably had no place to put him except like this giant.
They couldn't find him.
the Chile Stadium, right? Santiago Stadium, right? Victor Jara.
With all this
poor
said, though,
John.
I mean, the Charlotte police are certainly something that I wouldn't want to see when it's not a major media event.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are different animals than what I saw from Tampa.
Now
but
in
New York is still by far.
Well, they said they
But
threatened
in
us in
Charlotte-
New York. They said they'll be worse on you in New York.
And they were.
They were.
They were.
They
I
told us
watched
down in
on
Charlotte, the cops said-
S-17,
yeah.
September 17th,
Yeah.
I watched more police violence in an hour than I saw
Just a
at
few days
either
ago.
convention. And I was in the camps. I was on all the marches that I could possibly go to. I marched like 8-9 miles a day, you know. And I was there, and I saw in 1 hour in New York
Now, didn't
more
they-
overt violence.
Didn't they bring police from all different police departments
Absolutely.
to the convention?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so they weren't just the
In
Charlotte
Tampa, too?
police. They
But
were
in Tampa, not as much. Tampa, you have like the St. Petersburg.
more
Whereas at Charlotte,
local
you had
ones.
like Tennessee. You
Oh,
had,
okay.
like,
They
Georgia.
brought in
there
a
was like the
wider-
Fort Worth, Texas. There was Chicago police. There were people from all over North Carolina.
It was
Yeah.
like a vacation trip or something.
They outfitted them all in identical bicycles and identical Camelback hydration little thing.
Oh,
black,
yeah.
like
But they had their own
It was very
costume.
Dune.
Yeah,
You know, very.
They all
their
the
super
uniforms look
suits.
very similar, but they just had a different patch on there.
Oh, from their jurisdiction.
Yeah, I got the impression that the feds must have like bought them all.
Oh,
new
they
stuff.
the feds
Yeah, the feds-
shelled out. You know,
Yeah,
we're
they
cutting
fixed them
across
up.
the board austerity rules, except when it comes
probably
to
got a
like
lot of
fancy
stuff.
gizmos and whatnot for
right.
for stopping terrorism.
Right.
You know, whatever they want to
Well,
call
the
it.
terrorists are those coming from Bank of America, but you have to understand that
Yes,
Charlotte,
it is.
Charlotte is the Wall Street of the South. It's the second biggest area after Wall Street for trades and for financial companies, and its anchor is the Bank of America and the Bank of America building, which is this huge skyscraper that comes out of the country, you know, or in the hills, and
So where do people find out, like, if there's rides out to Long Island for this demonstration, all
I mean,
of that?
check 9bleaker.com, not tonight, because we are still working on that. I
Okay,
wanna
but
see
that's
what-
where you'll have
Yep.
some
Number
information. up.
Occupy is
Bleaker.
going. I have not figured out, or I'm not actually. I'm not going to be planning. I'm going to be more coordinating with them. You know, I'm just trying to get as many different groups there as possibly, particularly with a focus on the drug war groups.
Well, if a group's interested, you can leave a message for you at number 9 Bleecker,
Yes,
right?
you can.
Okay, so
And
that's a good place to get a message to John if you want to get in touch with him, coordinate your activities for that day.
if you need, and just to go straight out there to on October 16th. What time? Do you have the time for it?
Well, I'm going to try and get there by 2. But,
2 p.m., so-
2 p.m. You know, and I'm going to spend.
And that
the day
evening
there.
is probably what,
The
6, 7, 8
debate's like-
o'clock.
Well,
isn't
no,
it?
it goes. They said until 11.
Till 11, the debate
You
goes
know,
till, yeah. They do
so-
go. They go last few
and-
hours.
Well, I think it goes to 10, but I think they're going to give us to
Disperse.
clear
Oh,
up.
for free speech.
I mean, I think a lot of people would hope to catch
When the news is
Obama
done.
and Mitt on the way out, and
Right.
you know, say what they have to say. You know, I doubt that they'll let that happen. I'm sure they'll be covered
In a
in
different way.
in
Right.
expensive accoutrements.
What was
the
the
whole
name
way.
of the parking lot?
Is
the-
the Hagerdorn
That's the first
dorm,
Amendment
and
zone.
yes, the first. I think
First Amendment zone.
Ask where the First Amendment zone is.
you know,
Hagerdorn dorm.
next to the
Parking
George
lot.
Orwell bathroom,
Yeah,
and
right.
you know the Adolphus Huxley,
Right.
you know,
October 16th.
gymnasium.
Right. And hopefully we won't have the same problems that Nadine and the rest of the IVAW people had when they were there. So,
I would hope.
They were pretty unexpected, and they didn't expect to be beaten up in their uniforms.
But I do think with live streamers and with like some of the other things that we have out there now, and that it is an instant media cycle, and they love a good bashing. See, the difference is though, what concerns me is in Charlotte and Tampa, they really did seem to be afraid of physical confrontations. Either way, they didn't want to see that. They didn't want to see people beat by the cops, nor did they want to see their cops get humiliated. Whereas in New York, we have watched. We have watched where there's video. Protesters' heads slammed through a window, and it doesn't matter. I mean, there was a poll that came out after the Amadou Diallo of Manhattanites, just Manhattanites. Are you willing to accept an occasional Amadou Diallo type incident in order to feel more secure? And the answer was over 50% yes, which is heartbreaking. That is a heartbreaking thing for New Yorkers to puff out their chests and say, we're so tough. I don't know.
Thank you, John Murdock, for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Talk, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.